Adonai El Meshach, Zelle, Zikarim Basefer, Vesine Beyazdei Yeshua, Kimachei Amche, Es Zecher, Zecher, Amalei, Mitachas Hashamoyim. Kishevet HaMelech Achashverosh, Al Tisei Malchusei, Asher HaMelech Achashverosh, Et HaMelech.
בדבר משנה ודוס איכת דברי הרב ניסיינו, was die Gewänder von allen Bocken, von dem Nossi, was im Fursen mit den Minen von Gilachatchila Riber, was hebt sich schon, all derlich wie ich sein Vater mit Sim Shulafanav und Shulachra, Ma'amori Purim, mit den Meimer HaMishne, was Megillah Nikras, בי"ד ובי"ב ובי"ג ובי"ד ביזו ותסבו ונוסח אחד במיוחד מסים ושויס אלו וזה גפינה זה zwischen י"ד ותסבו
This production is made possible through the generosity of the members of the GEM Foundation.
Was der Chilik bepashtus von Purim bis Shusham Purim, a b'shas seir mukefes chema, ot ademot hotzi Purim, in Miloi Halavono, b'chamish osar b'chedesh, ודמות תקיים מסירה בשלמוסה במילא דפון verstandig echt der Teikef in der Minyan Apuri. Und wie der zählt echt der Megillah kepschuta, als bechol Medinis HaMelech, die gewähren mehr nicht wie ein Tag, Maschenken in Shushan, ist gewähren noch ein Sofer, noch ein Tag mehr wie bechol Medinis HaMelech. Wo davon versteht man echt Beruchnis HaInyoni, als er kommt in Shushan Purim rein, und demot ist Pirush HaInyan, als darf sich dann noch mehr, wie viel es hat sich aufgetan bei Purim, auf Pi, was in Inyoni dient bei Peir. Ist da kam Inyoni bei Purim, wie mit Kriyas HaMegillah, mit Shleach Monis, und Matones Lagene mehr nicht wie bei Purim de Prosim. Wo der Dief, was gefunden sich bei Prosim, war das Rev Israel. Maschenken bei Shushan Purim mehr nicht, wenn geht zu Protein-Inyonim, aber nicht in den Inyonim, wie Mikra Megillah, wie Chulu, wie Medubar Lehil, wenn geht aber zu Ruchnies. Was Ruchnies hat sich Ayid, Bekeach und Beyecheves, als soll übermachen sein, ihr Ktano, als Pi, was früher sie nie gewähren, und Kefes Chema, soll sie werden bescheite Chodu und berige Chodu, Mukefes Chema, und das Guf ist, dass die Avede, was gibt ihm, was tut, noch ein Tag. Soll sein, der Venapech, Haishlo, Haidhud im Hema bis Nähen, in die alle Unionen, was eine Menage zu Jüdischkeit, Arbeiter und Horowit in dem noch ein Tag, und das Gufe macht von sein Stott, von sein Irktano, von seiner Ramach Zehaguf, von seiner Ramach Hevrim, wie Shasa Gidim, aber das wird am Mukefes Chema. Was in der Linie von Mukefes Chema gibt Schutter, aber ich habe der Szene weiß, das ist ein Stott, was rumgeringelt mit der Chema, ruft sich lechatchile nicht auf vielen Milchoma gegen die Stadt. Dermal darf man haben, als Szene Godel bejeser und Achosav bejeser vechulhut. Maschenken in Ore HaProzes, in demot ist a viel a kleinere Szene, kann sich echt proben. Was ist echt in a Weder Ruchnis, bis Asayid Horowit mit sich, und arbeitet mit sich noch ein Tag, als soll werden mehr Jüdischer und mehr eingetunken in Jüdischkeit in Teil und Mitzvahs, und das ringelt herum mit der Chema, mit der Schutzwand, und das beschützt von den Narrigkeiten von Yetzer Hara, von den verschiedenen Sachen von Elam Hase, was können abführen von der Chayosher, von dem guten Weg, Und auch damals scheint bei ihm der Ingen von der Levone, was Israel dem in Levone, der Ingen von Niedigkeit, scheint bei ihm bei Shlomusse, und auch das wird dann noch bedämme von Jerusalem, ihrer Kedesh, wo der Ingen von Shushanpurim, Mekofes Chema, der die Gemorre Meweiht, am hat es verbunden mit Jerusalem und Bichlal mit der Joris Mekofes Chema, wo seinen gewährenden Eretz Israel, der Vater darf in der Chom Mekofes Chema, von Messi Yeshua Binun, nicht wie das sie gewähren, bis man die Ingen von der Mejura von Homen, die Mevuye Baruch in Chazal. Weil eine Gehe in Janenu darf ein Wissen sein, als Meshe Kibel Tere Messina, und Mesoro li Yeshua, was der Pshat in dem ist, als zu Yeshua noch der Riebe gegeben, bis Meshe ist weg bei Mori. Aber als hat sich Meshe gelernt, Tere im Kol Israel Kulam. Wie die Gmore sagte, Nere, wo Rasche bringt das Europa viele bei Pirusha ala Tere Faraben komisch le Mikro. Akachu Seder Tere, als Meshe Rabbeina alleine, die Tere, was Bakume mit Sinai, hat das gelernt mit jeder Rieden, was in sein dort, wo das in Kehle, Kol Aderis Kulom, der Heilig, ve der Bo. Steht in Kiswa Arizala, dass derselbe dort wird nicht Galgo. In dem Desche, die Achrise, seien doch alle Jiden in der Neffen von den Kabeln von Meshe Rabbeinu. Und das ist der Linie von Yeshua Binun, hat Jid bekehr, soll Makiv sein ihr. Als sie soll werden am Okefes Schema durch Milchome haben mit den Zähnen. Noch ein Tag, und auch demut ist Mamschech Simcho in der Neffen von Kai Masira, bei Shlomuso, die Kipschute noch ein Tag von Simche.
With materials from the Living Archive, established by the Rohr Family Foundation.
Good Vach.
Shvuah Tov.
Shvuah Tov, Beryl. Shvuah Tov. This year it's a triple Purim. Friday is Purim, today is Shushan Purim, and tomorrow in Yerushalayim there is still the custom of Shachmanis, and even though we're not in Yerushalayim, the Rebbe said that it's appropriate to also give Shachmanis to join the joy with people in Yerushalayim, not as a mitzvah, not a mitzvah, but something to add in the spirit of Purim even tomorrow to give Shachmanis. There are Jews all over the world, and everyone has their place and their reason to be where they are. And that was actually one of the reasons why Purim is associated with Ad lo yada, with going beyond logic and reason. When Mordechai told Esther she should go to the king and speak to the king, he said to her, Umi yodea, who knows if this is the reason you were chosen to be queen? Now, he could have spoken to Esther in a more direct way, because by divine providence, she's in position as the queen, and the Jewish people are about to be annihilated. Of course, she's the one chosen for this mission. Of course, she's the one who was able to be effective here. Certainly, the divine providence, the rule of divine providence would dictate that her being there means that she could do something about it. But her question to Mordechai wasn't if this was her mission. Her question to Mordechai was, why me? She's not interested in dealing with this shikr, this drunken king who is so fickle, and why does she have to do this? And Mordechai's response to her was, mi yodea. This is something which is beyond something that we can understand and know. Hashem is a mission for every neshama, and we don't know why Hashem chose your neshama for this mission. What we do know is certainly this is your mission, and that triggered in Esther this sense of Ad lo yada. This is what Hashem wants me. I'm there. So that's why Purim is associated with a joy beyond logic and reason, because Esther devoted herself to her mission Not thinking if it makes sense, doesn't make sense. So on that note, I want to share with you an amazing story about an incredible mission that the Rebbe sent Rabbi Gershon Jacobson to Cairo right after the 6-Day War. After the 6-Day War, when Egypt was badly beaten and a lot of, in addition to being anti-Israel, there was a lot of anti-Semitism on the rise because of what had happened in the 6-Day War. And Rabbi Gershon Jacobson worked in the 60s and 70s as the reporter for Yediot Achronot, one of Israel's more popular newspapers. And he was given this assignment to go visit Cairo. And he asked the Rebbe if this is a good idea to do, because it's a dangerous thing. And the Rebbe said, Nachin hadavar b'ma'id, which is really a very good idea, excellent idea. And he was invited to see the Rebbe because the Rebbe wanted to do certain missions in Cairo. He came to the Rebbe's room, the Rebbe's desks. There were many different items because the Rebbe wanted 12 different missions that the Rebbe gave him personally to do when he got to Cairo. For example, there was a Tunisian professor who was teaching history and geography in a university, and he had learned Tanya before. He was a Jewish, and Rebbe wanted him to have a Tanya that was just translated in French. So one of the missions was bring this Tanya to this professor. Very detailed, specific things he was supposed to do for certain individuals. The Rebbe asked him to bring a knife so that they could appropriately slaughter chickens in Cairo. The Rebbe sent a slaughtering knife. The Rebbe sent two pairs of tefillin for the chief rabbi of Cairo, and who didn't have checked tefillin that were properly checked for many years, and of course very happy to get tefillin. And they also spoke about certain individuals, what they needed. There was a certain British bank in Cairo where a Italian Jew was working, and they gave him a mission, what he should do for this specific Jew there, what he has to give him, what he has to share with him. And they also gave him various books and pamphlets and who to give them to, and $180 to distribute to charity. Then he told the Rebbe he's planning to stay in the Hilton, and it's expensive hotel. It's those days $180 a night, and he's going to stay on the 4th floor, so he'll be able to go out of the hotel and go into the hotel on Shabbos. He won't have to use the elevator. There's a lot of things in this mission that he got which are beyond logic. Miyedeya. The Rebbe responded to him, for that purpose, you could also go to the 7th floor. If that's what you're concerned about, you can also go to the 7th floor. Now, why go to the 7th floor if you go to the 4th floor? Miyedeya. But that's what the Rebbe said to him. And Rebbe didn't explain, and Rabbi Jacobson doesn't know either why that's what he was sent to do. But either way, the Rebbe asked him, you're going to Cairo, to Egypt, what are you doing to ensure your security there? So he said, I'm going to stay in close contact with the office of Yediot Achronot, of the newspaper in Paris, and anything happens to me, I'll right away call them. The Rebbe wasn't satisfied with this, and the Rebbe asked him if he has any other ideas of keeping secure. He said, I'm planning to call all of the embassies of various countries when I get there. The Rebbe said, that's a very good idea. The Rebbe said, because all of the various ambassadors of these countries have nothing to do, and they will greet you like a king. As the Rebbe said, they'll greet you like a king. So sure enough, he comes, and the Rebbe also said to him, though, be careful not to go into dark places. Don't go into large auditoriums, dark places at night. If it's dark, don't go in there, because where things can't be seen, you don't want to be in a dark place. That's what the Rebbe told him. So when he left, he had like his two feelings. On the other hand, he felt this was an important mission. On the other hand, the Rebbe didn't tell him like nothing to worry about. They were telling him all things he should do to protect himself. So he had two mixed feelings. He felt like the bracha, he's going to the mission. On the other hand, he felt like it's not so easy. Anyways, he arrives in Cairo, and right away he had a lot of difficulties. he knew that his phone was being bugged and they were watching him and listening to him. And as soon as he got there, he asked for a telephone book. And they told him in the hotel, there are no telephone books in Cairo because Cairo is a big city. And he screamed, no, I need a telephone book. I'm a journalist. I need a telephone book. And they finally gave him a telephone book. And 2 days after he arrived, he was there for 3 weeks, he called up all the embassies he could. He called up 20 embassies. When he spoke to the Canadian military attaché, he spoke to a man named Commander Smith. Commander Smith was so emotional. Someone had called him. He says, I'm here for 30 years, and nobody has ever called me in any newspaper. It's so exciting. Can I come to see you? Can I come to your hotel? And I know Cairo very well. I could show you around. And he became his tour guide and helped him throughout his stay. From 7 in the morning to 8 at night, he was watching him and helping him all day long. As the Rebbe said, they will treat you like a king. Interesting thing also with the ambassador of New Zealand, he was Jewish, and he said that he had put a mezuzah up in his home, but after the 6-day war, he was frightened, and he was very emotional to see Rabbi Jacobson, because you remind me of my grandfather, and really it touched his neshama seeing someone with a beard and a yarmulke and a payas and tzitzis. It gave him something. So Rabbi Jacobson is there, and he has many difficulties with kosher food. He had ordered kosher food, but all of a sudden there are no vegetables to be found in all of Cairo because they were making it hard for him. And he did the various missions that the Rebbe had given him. He also called the Rebbe's office twice a week. And Rabbi Chadikov was very interested and asked him any detail. The Rebbe's secretary asked him any details what he was doing there. And the Rebbe was listening in to all different things that he was doing in Egypt. And he did exactly what the Rebbe told him to do. He went to the rabbi, gave him the tefillin, he went to the sheikh, gave him the knife, gave him the pamphlets out. And there were also some things which are more like miyodea, who knows what this is about, that he never even discovered the meaning of. One story, when he was in Alexandria, he visited the famous shul, famous synagogue in Alexandria, and the back steps of the shul, there was a person sitting on the back steps, and he tried to speak to him, but the guy, he gave him $5 to charity. The guy sitting on the steps, he gave him $5 to charity. The guy jumps up and runs away. When he spoke to Rabbi Chadikov, he mentioned how this guy jumped up and ran away. He gave him the $5, and it was weird. So Rabbi Chadikov was listening, and all of a sudden the Rebbe got on, and the Rebbe said, ask him if his name is Yitzchak. Ask him if his name is Yitzchak. Okay? So he goes back to the synagogue the next day. He's sitting again on the steps. He's sitting like in the Eastern posture, sitting with his legs folded on the steps. And he said, Yitzchak. The guy jumps up. He starts running. He's running and he ran after him, but he was running so fast he couldn't catch him. And he was always wondering, who is this man? And later on, years later, when Begin visited Cairo, Rabbi Jacobson accompanied Begin, and he went special to the synagogue again to see this person, and he was unable somehow to speak to him. He could never get the guy to have a conversation with him. He saw him, he never could talk to him. And he told the Rebbe, like, he doesn't know what this means, but he was never able to speak to him. And the Rebbe responded, there are some things that I don't know. The Rebbe responded. The Tzemach Tzedek once said that there are different levels in prophecy. It's not what the Rebbe said at that time. I'm just sharing something similar concept. Tzemach Tzedek once said that the different levels in prophecy, and the lowest level in prophecy is that you say something, you don't know why you're saying it. Anyways, so the Rebbe said there are some things I don't know. He also visited the Jewish prisoners in Egypt, and he got permission because he was a journalist to visit them, and the Rebbe very much appreciated how he went and to inspire these prisoners. That was a story, that was a mission in Cairo. I just want to share one other story about Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Gershon Jacobson. Years later, he started his own newspaper the Allgemeine Journal, a Yiddish newspaper. And at that time, there was a new education commissioner in New York City, and he started something terrible that would affect millions and millions of children and generations of people. And Rabbi Jacobson didn't say exactly what it was. I think it was referring to health education, which we all know what that was a facade for, and how it ruined a lot of lives, this health education, and how it ruined the modesty of young men and women, of millions and millions of young men and women. So the Rebbe told Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi secretary called Rabbi Jacobson and said to him, there was a front page article in New York Times about this new thing for education and how terrible it is. What are you doing about it? What are you saying about this? So Rabbi Jacobson says, what should I say? Rabbi Charkov says, the Rebbe said, this is something you have to have sacrifice for, and every Jew should have sacrifice for you, and especially you, as whoever has a newspaper, you need to make an effort that this commissioner should lose his job. What should I do exactly? He asked Rabbi Charkov. Then the Rebbe got on the line. The Rebbe said very strongly, you're asking what to do? You have to have sacrifice. You have to write in the newspapers. If you will write, they'll write about this also in other newspapers. Write about this in Israel, write about this in Japan, write about it in Russia, in every place. This is something which is, we can't let this go on. The Rebbe spoke, it was not a customary, if the Rebbe usually arranged meetings through his secretary, the Rebbe spoke to Rabbi Jacobson directly. He says, Reb Gershon, if you have time, I want to see you after Mincha. Of course, he runs right away to 770, and after Mincha, he goes in the Rebbe's room, and on the Rebbe's table is a front page of New York Times. The Rebbe says to him, all night I couldn't sleep. What am I doing here in 770? When in New York, they're educating millions of children in this way. What am I doing? What are the rabbis doing? What are the newspapers doing? So Rabbi Jacobson got, all shook up. He said, Rebbe, what should I do? So Rebbe said to him, do you know what zrizus means? Do you know what alacrity means? I said, yes. So then Rebbe raised his voice and said very sharply, I can't sleep because of this all night. Immediately call all Orthodox organizations, rabbis, Chabad rabbis, ask them what they're doing about this, and write about this on the front page of your, what are they doing about this, considering that this is on the front page of the New York Times. They're educating Jewish from 12 to 17-year-olds to act in a way which is totally wrong. People shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about this. You should go to the rabbis, and they may say to you, they'll undoubtedly say to you, it's not our thing, doesn't happen to us in our yeshiva, but this is a situation of mi la Hashem ilai. Just like Matasyahu said, whoever's for God, come to me. So too, this is a war for Hashem, and for the sake of Hashem, everyone has to get involved. So Rabbi Jacobson said, he spoke there many times, he never saw the Rebbe so sharp and so strong and so passionate about anything. And he right away went into the Rebbe's secretariat, and he called the various Jewish organizations, all the ones he knew. He called the president of Young Israel, Mr. Arl Jacobs, and he introduced himself, said, I'm a journalist. What is your response to this? So Mr. Jacobs said, I'm immediately going to send a protest to the education commissioner, and I'm going to ask him to clarify what he's doing. How could he do this? Rabbi Charkov heard about this. Rabbi Charkov said that the Rebbe said that you should put a picture of Arl Jacobs on the front page of your newspaper, and you should put his letter there. And the Rebbe said that, again, that if you write about this, they'll write about this in Israel and New York Times and other papers. And during that time period, the Allgemeiner, his newspaper, was printed on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And he would always bring 10 copies of his newspaper to the Rebbe and the Rebbe's secretariat and the Rebbe's wife. And So Wednesday, the paper was out at 10 o'clock, and already at 11 o'clock, 11:30, Rabbi Chadakov called him up and said to him, the Rebbe asked me to tell you his great appreciation for what you've done, and asked you can see him tomorrow. Of course, next day he comes to see the Rebbe, and he could see the Rebbe was not as emotional as the time before, and the Rebbe thanked him, and he says, the Rebbe said, I want to participate in this mitzvah, and he gave him $18 times 3, and he says, I'm giving this to you for your alacrity. Then the Rebbe asked him again, do you know what is alacrity? And he said, yes. So the Rebbe said, thanks to alacrity, in Jewish history, many good things have happened as a result of alacrity. First of all, the first thing that happened as a result of alacrity in Jewish history of zrizus, it says in the Torah that Avram Avinu woke up early in the morning to bring his son as on the Akedah. It's like Yashkim Avram Abaker. Avram woke up early in the morning. So the Rebbe said Avram Avinu was a great Chabadnik. He was a great Chabadnik, meaning he knew a lot and he was able to learn Likutei Torah. He was able to learn Sichas. He was able to learn Chitas. And when he was asked to take his only son, Yitzchak, he could have taken him at nighttime. He could have gone to mikveh first. He could have checked his tzitzis first. But Avram Avinu woke up early in the morning, didn't look for excuses. Thank you so much for your alacrity, and let's hope that things will work out. I don't know the end of the story of what happened with this particular education commissioner and how this affected the education in the New York public elementary schools and high schools. But the message for all of us certainly is how whatever there's a mission that comes our way that Hashem wants us to do, it's to be like with alacrity. I have to think out that question. Do you know what alacrity means? Anyways, thank you all for listening. A good Tavach, your good Sirs Tevis. Vach Yehuda, Vach Rebero, good Vach Charles, and good Vach Yitzchak.